it does. Okay, Mary, get situated here. Mary, how did you know Red Skelton?
Well, I had a brother, and they were about the same age, and they always played together. Everywhere one went, the other one went. And he was just one of us. He was just a brother to us. When Mother fixed anything, one of us, he got the same as we got. And there was just no difference in our family. And every morning, I don't know, we just looked forward to two brothers being there. And there wasn't anything particularly that, I just seemed like I always knew him. And there wasn't anything. He was very polite when he came to the house. Always, I can remember him knocking on the door. He never came just rushing in. And he was just really a nice guy. And we all loved him.
Where did you live?
We lived on Meyer Street. And that was about, I can't remember, maybe the fifth house down on Meyer Street. That is where Meyer Street is where Pizza Hut is right now, Bob's Pizza. That is Meyer Street, and we lived down there. Kicksmellers lived on the corner, which is a brick house, and we lived on down the street from them.
So you lived fairly close to where Red lived? Or
Well,
was it in the same general neighborhood?
Yeah, it was in the same neighborhood. At one time, I think that he lived, of course I was a kid then, over on Lindale or something like that, but not far away from our house.
What name did he go by back then?
Well, all he knew him by Red. That was the only thing we ever knew him. And it seems to me that he had freckles. Now, whether he did or not, I don't remember. But it seems like he had freckles. And he's always just a funny kid.
Now, the time period that you knew him, do you know roughly when that would have been?
Gosh almighty. I think I must have been 6, 8 years old. I don't remember because it's something you just kind of bypass, you don't think about it. To think somebody you just played with, it turns out to be someone like him.
How old would he have been, I guess?
He would have been about 3 years older than me. Maybe 2 or 3 older than me. Because I don't ever know how old he is. And,
Was it your 9th birthday party?
huh?
Was it your 9th birthday party?
My 8th birthday party, yeah. On my 8th birthday party, my first pair of real patent leather shoes, I remember. Mother made little tiny sandwiches. And before that, he says, he was at our house, and he says, Mom, are you going to make cinnamon rolls? He loves cinnamon rolls. And I don't know what she said to him. But anyhow, that evening, after my birthday party, he came, and he had a little piece of paper wrapped around something, and he gave it to me, which was my birthday present. And it was just wrapped in brown paper. And what it was the tiniest little shovel that you get into candies. And Opel's used to have a bakery down on 2nd Street. And there was that little shovel in there. And why I kept the shovel, I don't know. And afterward, I used to go out and play in the dirt with it, and then I'd come in, wash it off, and put it away. We had that shovel up until, I'd say 2 years ago, and we can't find it now. We always kept it in a jewelry box, and my girls never touched it. But we loaned the jewelry box out, to some people who were having parties, and I think they thought that was just a toy, so that wasn't anything. And we've looked and looked and looked for that, because now it's so precious, to me, which I'd like to have, but it's gone.
What was he like? I mean, when he was he funny or just...
always funny. Always funny. Everything he did was funny. He didn't, and he'd laugh a lot, Everything he did, he laughed about. And you could feel down in the dumps, and he'd come along and he'd laugh, and he was just funny all the time. Not that, he was more funny than any of the rest of the kids. He could if you didn't feel good, he'd make you feel good. But, and everything he did, they're always wanting to put on shows. And I had a friend in the neighborhood, and it was Naoma Kicksmiller, who lived on the corner from us. And Naoma would come down, and whatever happened, I don't know. But if she didn't get her way, she'd go down the street and she'd holler, "Your daddy's got long legs, your daddy's got long legs." So one day, Fred came there, and his shoes were too big, but didn't mean anything because, them days. And he started down the street behind her and hollered, "Your daddy's got long legs, your daddy's got long," and he fell down. And he said, "Red's got skin knees, Red's got skin knees." I can remember doing that so much. But it was just a real fun time. But I don't remember. Oh, one time I remember, now I wasn't quite in on this, but you let me in, or if I can't go with you, I'll tell Mother. Mr. Morrissey, who lived next door to us, got a brand new car, big, shiny, lights on it. So we decided, or they decided, when Mr. Morrissey goes home or goes to work, we're going to go over and look at the car. So here I go, right with the two boys, Down we went to the alley and across the alley and up the Marcy's yard, because Mrs. Marcy didn't like children. But every afternoon she took a nap. So Mr. Marcy goes to work, and we go down to get in Mr. Marcy's shed to see his brand new shiny car. Well, they got in the car, and I had to get in the back seat, of course, a girl. And then Red gets up behind the windshield, or behind the driver, and he said, "Someday I'm going to have me a big car like that." Well, all at once somebody said, "Hey, somebody's coming." Well, they got out of the car and run, and I had to get out of the car over the door, and I tore my dress. My mother asked me 100 times, "How did you tear your dress?" I don't know. But I guess he got his big car. But it was a fun thing that he did. And the show. Oh, the big thing was, and I'll never forget it. Well, one time that we had a little show, and we had to sing. Of course, I got out there and I sung, and then when I got all done, he said, "Thank you, Squeaky," and that has stuck with me the rest of my life. Call me Squeaky. I can't stand to hear myself on record or anything, because I think I squeak. But anyhow, the biggest show of all was, I think they were trying to charge for this particular show. Now, they had costumes, they had all junky stuff, like they had, and they put this big show on. And to start with, my dad worked on the railroad, so he brought in ties because he was going to separate our yard from the Marcy's yard so that he could put a garden in, and he wanted to square it off. Well, the boys took the railroad ties that were left there in the middle of the yard because we couldn't get too close to the Marcy's, and they stacked them up like a theater. I don't know where the kids came from, but it seems to me like there were hundreds of them now. The whole thing was covered with kids. They put this show on. Now, after the show, he had tin cans with strings tied on them. So what you did, you took your shoe and you stomped it down into those tin cans. So therefore, you have tin cans on your feet and you have a tin can behind you. You're pulling it. Well, down the street we went, and Mrs. Marcy came out and told us to be quiet. Well, we went and came back, and down the street we went again. And Mrs. Marcy comes out and she says, "I told you kids to be quiet. I'm going to call the cops on you." Well, that's all she had to say. You never saw kids scatter so much in all of your life. But that was the big show. I'm not sure if they charged for that show or not, but it seems to be like they got a piece of candy or they got something for it. But if they did, I didn't get any candy. But that was really a fun time then, But
Was Red, did his sense of humor seem to be a little bit different from the other kids, or?
Well, he was always funnier than everybody else, I don't know what you mean by being different. He was very polite now, very, very polite. And he knew what he wanted. When he went after something, he made sure that he got that particular thing, but never bossy, and he was always very, very nice. And I know he was a good loser. on when you played a game or something. We used to play tennis across the street. We had the little things with a ball like that bounced on it. And we played tennis with a ball back and across the street. And in fact, he taught us how to do that. And he'd show everybody how to, hit that ball and run, because we didn't know. But it was a fun time.
Was he well liked?
Oh, gosh, yes. Everybody loved him. And usually there was a lady across the street. When she knew we were all going to be together, she would make cookies. She always made peanut butter cookies. And we always look forward to, after something like that, when a bunch would get together. She had two girls, too. Lucille, her name was Soden. And Lucille's mother always made these peanut butter cookies. And I remember the day that he called me Squeaky, and I run in the house and cried. And my mother was standing in the door laughing because, of course, she always watched us because of Mrs. Morrissey. It's just a lot of memories now, which I had actually forgot about. You just don't think about it because you do your daily chores and work, and so it was a fun time. We really had fun. And
did it surprise you when he ended up in Hollywood?
Well, yes, it did. But when he would come to town, to me, he was just one of us. It didn't mean, really, yes, I guess I was surprised, but he was ambitious. But to see what he did, I definitely was surprised. To think that anybody who had nothing, he dressed just like us. He did not have any better clothes than we did. And sometimes when he'd come, he really would come kind of like a rag picker, you know what I mean? It was fun things. But, I don't know. Anyone that ambitious, no, I don't think it would be a surprise, to come on like that. You have to be a go-getter, in which he was. Not demanding, but nice.
You were talking about when he set his mind on something, he focused in and tried to get what?
Yes, when he wanted.
Any examples of that?
Not only when he'd put these shows on. He wanted you to do this, and he wanted you to do it this way, and don't fool around about it, And he'd show you how to do it. But he never cross. He'd just say, I want it done this way, and then he'd show you, and he expected you to do it.
He was always talking about, you remember the story about Ed Wynn and down at the Pantheon, that story about how Ed Wynn let him come in and watch a show down there. Did he ever talk about that?
No, I never did. But they put on a show, and I don't just remember. I'm sure that he was in on it, but that's when I was in the teens, They put a minstrel show on. And if I remember a few of the people that were down there, because at that time I could sew, and everything was done in white. All of the men had the tails and everything, and they came to me and asked me, could I make some costume, to help them out. And I said, I can't. I didn't know how. And they said, well, make a pair of pants just like he's making a pair of pajamas. That's all they needed, You didn't have to put the flies in. You didn't have to do that. And I thought that he was in on that, but I wouldn't say positive if he was or not. But he, I believe that he was, because Les Thacker and a lot of, Les and him were good friends too, after he grew up. And I think they were in several shows. Then Red graduated on from there. Of course, you forget because I went my way and they went their way, and a lot happened.
When you saw him in the movies or TV, did his sense of humor, let's say in the movies on TV, remind you of his sense of humor?
Yes, definitely. And, I would watch for years and years. Every time he was on, I'd watch. And I'd think, I just don't believe this. But it's just something that happens,
Did you enjoy watching him?
Oh, yes, I did. Yeah. The only thing was when he would come to town, what I should have done was go up and say, do you remember when we did this or when we did that? But somebody who is a celebrity like that, you don't do. But now my brother rode in the parade with every parade he was in town, everything that he did. And when he came to town, they were together. If there was a banquet there, he sat beside him. And they were just very good, close friends, which was wonderful.
There was a rumor that Red wasn't too fond of Vincennes because people treated him and his family poorly.
They did. Well, it's just like when you get to be famous, you're somebody. And everybody knows you. But when you're a kid and you don't have anything, you know what I mean, you're in a poor group of people, which we were. My mother worked, my daddy worked. And, we're just nobody. But whenever you get to be a celebrity, man, we all know you. And that's how come I just never would go up there. And I wanted to, really, to say, do you remember when we were kids on Myers Street and had a show? And I'm sorry that I didn't do that. But it's nice that he got where he did. I'm so happy he did. And of course, his life, you can't believe. I mean, I didn't know he'd been married, 3 times. I didn't know. We just don't know those things, And you just pick it up from the newspapers. And it's really nice to know now that somebody from our little town is somebody. And
you were talking about the car incident where you got stuck in the back seat. Do you remember any pranks? He sounded like he might be kind of a prankster. Do
he
you remember
was.
Any other pranks he may have pulled in the neighborhood?
Well, not anything like that. That was a biggie. Because when he got in that car up in the driver's seat, and I can remember seeing him sitting up there, boy, I'm going to have me a car just like this. And no, because the boys, lots of times, if I didn't know where they were going, Mary didn't get to go. And, but he didn't do anything mean. I mean, it was all just in fun things. But can't you imagine 3 kids sneaking along a fence to get into somebody's garage to see what them big shiny lights was? No, he was not. I can't ever remember him doing anything mean.
Did he ever talk about his home life? I mean, was he happy or?
He talked about his grandmother. It's always, because at nighttime, maybe 4 o'clock, I got to go home because Grandma will be worried about me. But he never mentioned his mother, never once, as I ever can remember. He might have, but grandmother was important to him. But I don't ever remember him ever mentioning his mother.
And his father passed away when he was quite young, too,
Mm-hmm.
I believe, and his mom remarried.
Mm-hmm. Well, I didn't even know about that, but maybe that's why he lived with his grandmother. But he loved his grandmother very much.
Where did his grandmother live? Was that the...
Well, now they moved. They moved on the other side of, excuse me. I think they moved on Swartzel or someplace over there. And that's when, we were bigger and losing track of each other. But I don't just remember, in fact, I've often thought I'd like to go there and see where the house is, but they didn't do it. And, well,
let's see here. Do you have anything?
The Harrison House, I understand that you...
Oh, yes. I had a friend who was at the Harrison House, and I used to go there and play. Well, they found out about it. So, they wanted to go to the Harrison House, too. We went off to the Harrison House. Well, there was 4 of us then. The lady was so nice. It was her mother who was the caretaker there. We run through that house like crazy. Well, there in the Harrison House, as I can remember, there was a tunnel down there. And I remember the boys went down into the tunnel, and we were ready to come out, and, of course, they tried to scare us. And we got on that thing, you would not believe how fast. And I can think, Lord, you couldn't get in that Harrison House, now they'd kill you. Going through that dining room, can you imagine? 4 kids running through there. But it was fun, and then, of course, they got in there and was making ghost sounds, to us down in that tunnel. And I often thought I'd like to go back now and see what it's like.
Aside from clowning around, kidding around, did Red have any hobbies or something he really liked doing?
Put on shows. It was showtime. It was always showtime. He loved that showtime. And he loved piano music. I don't think they had a piano, but every time you hear anything like that, his ears, he was very. And I didn't even know he knew how to. I didn't know he even knew how to play. He must have taken lessons after he grew up, or maybe he was just talented because he was a very talented person, and he knew a little bit about everything, really, and you felt good around him.
What about art? I mean, he painted quite a bit, I know, in his later years, but did he show any indication?
Never did.
How to paint?
No. And I've often wondered, did he go out there and take art lessons? You know, I had to. But no, he never. The only thing that his talent was is people then, and maybe that was where he learned his art. But and I know the first time I seen the clown, I was total. I knew instantly who it was, but not that he ever showed anything on paper or drawings or anything around me. And
well, it sounds like what you're saying is that his natural talent plus his seriousness about, you're talking about conducting shows, and I don't know how to describe that offhand. His professionalism as far as organization.
I think he was born with it.
Helped him out a great deal in his later life.
Yeah, I did. I think there's people who are talented for certain things, and I think he was one of them. It was just there, and he could do it.
When you listen to his comedy routines, and he had so many of them, did he ever say anything and it's like it reminded you of something he did back when he was a kid in Vincennes? Did he ever bring, I guess, maybe
Well, like this,
childhood?
yes, like this Clem Cadiddlehopper. I thought, hey, he used to come over there with a stick on his shoulder, and I remember that, and he had a rag tied on it, and I used to wonder what was in that rag, but never thinking anything about it. And to me, I thought they were going to go fishing because it was just a stick, hanging over there. That was in my mind, well, those kids are going to go fishing. Well, I didn't like to fish. And wearing big hats. He liked big hats, or when he was a kid. And big shoes. Now, he'd come home, lots of times he came home, and I thought he had his dad's shoes on because they were just big shoes. Kids don't think anything about that. But, yeah, I thought about that when I seen the show. Well, they're them big shoes. Hey, he's got a big hat on, But outside of that, it was, I just...
We've talked to a couple, we've talked to one person who said that he was a pretty mean little kid.
He was never mean.
Okay.
I mean, around me, I don't, maybe when they got by themselves, you don't know. When the cat's away, the mice will play. But, no, I don't remember him ever being mean. Of course, maybe this little mean kid came out when we're not around. I don't know. But, no, he was never mean.
Now, his red hair, I take it was really red.
Yes, it was.
Was it kind of like a bright?
Yeah, bright red, like a henna red, or maybe you call it. Yeah, he had red head. And I still think he had freckles, but I can't remember. But it seemed to me like I could see that red hair, and I think he had freckles, and I could be wrong, but I know
Did he
him.
get a lot of teasing about that? With red hair and freckles?
Not around us.
Okay. Anything else? Mary, thank you very much.
Well, anyhow, that's the story of my life.